Who is going to win the World Series? Has it already been decided by a bird? We'll break that down. Also have a look ahead at the preview of the World Series. Recap the Phillies and Diamondbacks, the Rangers and Astros. That's coming up in this episode of Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast. Stick with us.
This is Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast with your hosts, Brandon Spinner and Michael Burns.
Oh, well, hello and welcome to all of our barrel heads out there. And if you haven't joined our roster yet, don't forget to do that. Hit the subscribe button below. I am Brandon alongside Michael and Wes. We are a podcast that talks about bourbon and baseball, but it is World Series time. So let's jump right into the baseball. Gentlemen, how are y'all doing tonight? And are you ready for the Fall Classic?
I am ready for the Fall Classic. I watched most of the NLCS and ALCS games. It was exciting when you're into each and every game that you remember the night before and which players are doing hot, whose walk-up music is vibing. Yeah, I'm excited, baby.
Wes?
Man, it was my wife's birthday yesterday, and I was driving to Orlando during the Game 7 Phillies Diamondbacks. I had it on my phone. As I was driving in the cup holder so I could listen to it, and I got there just in time to finish to see the last two innings. I couldn't stop listening to it, watching it. Couldn't let it drive get in the way of that.
It was in your cup holder. It wasn't over your stereo.
Because it probably makes it echo. You probably couldn't attach it. You don't have a smart car, do you?
No. 2011 Chevy Silverado. So,
well, hey, can't knock a Chevy. Just didn't have the old plug-in yet. Last time we recorded, both series were tied 2-1. So if you followed baseball at all, you know they both went 7 games, which is what we asked for, right? It was the first
More
two
baseball
series that went the full length. So that was great. 2 teams no one thought really was going to be here, especially at the beginning of the year.
Right. The Diamondbacks almost didn't make it if Seiya Suzuki catches a fly ball.
Yep.
That could have been determined by that. The Diamondbacks didn't even make the postseason. That's how close they were to not making it.
Or if they would have blown one of the games that they beat the Cubs in September, right? They had an extra inning game that went 13 innings that the Cubs held the lead in, I think, every extra inning. They would have lost that game. They would have been out, I believe, as well. So it comes down to one game sometimes. What did we say at the beginning of the playoffs? It could be anybody. And that's what's great about this 6-team system. Last year we had a 6 seed go. This year we had a 6 seed go. And this year the 6 seed could win it just like the 6 seed almost did last year.
Yeah, I imagine there were not many people that had Rangers Diamondbacks World Series on their bingo card before the season started.
There's one guy.
But you know what? Yeah, I saw that.
Did you see that? The parlay that hit? Yeah.
Like, what an insane parlay. But as you mentioned, we asked for it. We finally got it. There was some drama. There were close games, Drama. Love that. That's what the postseason is about, right? And we didn't feel like we had gotten that up until, our last recording. And since then, man, it was awesome to watch 2 Game 7s, the first ever for the Phillies.
Back-to-back nights. Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome, man.
That was fun.
Fun series. And before we dive any further into baseball, I do want to point out that it is almost Christmas shopping season. We're almost to Halloween, so the store's already got that Christmas stuff out. If you're looking for a gift for your whiskey or bourbon-loving friend or family member, head on over to whiskeytowers.com. Use promo code WhiskeyWeather in all caps, and you'll get 10% off your order at whiskeytowers.com. What a Whiskey Tower is a beer tap version for bourbon, basically.
That's right.
And we like to say we put your everyday players in there. So go head on over to whiskeytowers.com. They are the sponsor of this episode, and that's what's providing you this World Series and playoff baseball content going forward here throughout the rest of the games, and through the rest of the year. So again, whiskeytowers.com. Use promo code WhiskeyWeather. So you talked about a drama. Do we want to talk Phillies, Diamondbacks first, or do we want to get into the Rangers and Astros? You gentlemen, you point me in which direction you want to go.
What do you think, Mike? I feel like I feel like the Phillies Diamondbacks might get into the disrespect of the Diamondbacks conversation. Personally, I want to talk about the drama between the Astros and Rangers.
Let's go, baby. Yeah, Adolis Garcia pimping every single hit basically that he hits off of a pitcher.
The
He didn't
bat
care
flip.
necessarily how far it went, but
bad,
usually
bad
it went
man.
very far.
Yeah.
So last time we recorded, they were playing Game 4. The Rangers were up 2-1 in the series. Ultimately, they go down 2-3. No home team won a game in that series. The Rangers won all 4 in Houston, and the Houston Astros won all 3 in Texas. Well, obviously, all 7 games were in Texas, but at Globe Life.
That was the Astros' MO, right? You pointed out the records last episode, Brandon, that the Astros are better away than home this whole season, which is very weird.
Mm-hmm.
And
51
that's
and
how it
30
turned out for the Astros. They couldn't win in their own house.
Yeah, that was a real problem for the Astros and kind of uncharacteristic for them in as past years. When they showed that graphic that they had a losing record at home, I was like, no chance. I would not believe that. But it held true. So
it certainly did. Especially, they only won 1 game at Minute Maid Park in the postseason this year, and that was the first game versus the Twins. And then they ultimately won that series, but still, crazy stuff between that. In Game 4, we were recording during it. The Astros would go on to win. Game 5, I believe, is when we had all the fireworks, right? That was Adolis Garcia hits what would be, in that scenario, the home run of his career. They're down, was it 2-1 at that point? He hits a 3-run home run to make it 4-2. And we've seen some pimp jobs. Was this the pimp job of all pimp jobs?
It's not quite up there with the Batista pimp job.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
It's not quite up there, but it was a pretty good pimp job. I would give it top 2 or 3.
The hang time on that home run was what, 6 seconds? And he still wasn't even halfway down the line. He hadn't even taken 2 steps. He slammed that bat halfway down the line, and the ball had already been out of the park for 3 seconds.
So I'm going to take the position player approach here. And I know Mike was a pitcher. All right. So he might take a little offense to this. But let the boys play, man. If you get offended by that is his moment. All right. That's his moment. He got you in that moment. Sure. As a competitor, you can be upset. But the things that transpired after that, man, I don't know. I let the guy pimp it as much as he wants because that's entertaining. It's good for baseball. Yeah. I love that. I love the emotion of it. I guess that's I love the emotion of it because that's just raw, organic emotion from Adolis right there. And I love that.
Pitchers are allowed to come off the mound after every inning strikeout and, fist pump it, whatever.
The Diamondbacks just did it. Right.
Yeah, they can do it as long as they're not doing it directed at the dugout, but they can do it all they want, and that's fine.
Or directed at the pitcher, right? It's not like Adolis was staring at who was on the mound at that point. It
wasn't Abreu. Abreu hit him.
It wasn't Abreu.
No, it was still. It was Verlander who gave it up.
Verlander, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's not like he was looking at Verlander and was screaming at Verlander. You know,
he was screaming.
He looked at his own dugout and was trying to pump up his team. So I got no issues with it, man. If there was anybody in the Astros locker room that felt like that was disrespectful, I'm sorry, but it's the postseason.
So the question for you, go ahead, Michael.
I was gonna say Adolis was just the man for that series and for this whole postseason for the Rangers.
Yeah, he had a great game, and we'll get to him here in a second. A great series. Obviously, he won the ALCS MVP. But the question I posed to you: do you think the Abreu pitch was on purpose? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Well, yep. You do.
I'll say this. If you can find me a clip of post plunking that someone comes out and says, yeah, it was absolutely on purpose, I'll buy you a bottle of Basil Haven, which I just bought today. All right. You find me a clip, you send it to me on Twitter, I'll buy you a bottle of Baseline. All right.
They're not allowed to. They're not not allowed to, because that
right?
gets them a suspension automatically. Automatic suspension. Where if they say no, it wasn't, they save themselves $10,000.
And I saw things on Twitter about, well, that's the first time Abreu had been in a slide step. They had asked him to slide step because they were getting stolen on. Bro, there is too much coincidence in the person that got hit. He could, like, at the timing of that? No, I'm sorry. That was on purpose. There's just nothing else to make me believe otherwise.
I don't know. That pitch wasn't too bad that hit Adolis. The pitch that hit Chase McCormick.
The pitch that hit Evan not Evan Garver, Mitch Garver,
yeah. Yeah.
From Abreu as well. But yes, we'll get into the Aroldis Chapman pitch. So, do you agree with the reaction though from Garcia and the 2-game suspension for Abreu? Michael,
go ahead, Mike.
I don't. I agree with this. I don't know that I agree with the suspension. What I don't agree with is that they gave the suspension but put it for the regular season. So they really said, "Oh, Astros, silly you. We're not going to punish you, really." Like, what is the first 2 games of for a relief pitcher do at the beginning of a season? Nothing.
Right. But here's where I'll bounce back off of that is I don't know if the MLB really, I think it was an arbitrator who decided that. So they don't have any control over that. That's an arbitrator making his own decision.
Yeah, I think you don't want one moment to affect the rest of the series. Maybe if that was their best player there, that maybe it was reverse. That Garcia needed to be suspended for 2 games. That affects the rest of the series based on a play.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna say I don't think it was intentional, for the fact they were still in that game. They still won that game, right? And Verlander said it best, and I fully believe Verlander. That was Adolis's career-defining home run at that moment, right? He had never hit a bigger home run. I don't have a problem with him pimping it. I should have made a better pitch. Now, if it was Abreu taking umbrage for, I don't think it came from Verlander. I don't think it came from the dugout. If it was on purpose, it was Abreu himself. That's how I feel. And if I was an Astros player and that came out, I'd be pissed because you're basically you're handing them an extra runner.
Yeah.
Right? Yep, absolutely.
Why? My goal is not to worry about somebody else. My goal is to win the damn World Series, and I want to have
your goal is to
shot.
beat them on the field.
Correct. And they ended up doing that with the Altuve home run in the 9th inning, which, oh my God, right? Like, I thought at that point, this is done. Did that not seem like, the Rangers
at that
are
point
toast?
In time when Altuve hit that changeup, it looked like a changeup down and in, took it over the wall, the left field wall.
Another
I was like,
skyscraper.
they're meant to win this series at that point in time. Like, that's destiny. I'm sorry, but like Texas, the Rangers controlled that game up until one pitch, down to their last out, right? And dude, can we give Altuve credit though? Like, despite all of the things that surround him.
No, I mean, sorry.
Man, I love him or hate him. Love him or hate him. He's now second all time on the postseason home run list. Second.
26 home runs, I believe it is, right? And 29 is the record. I can't remember who the record held.
Manny Ramirez.
Kyle Schwarber's jumping up that list too. I believe he's 6th all time. I could be wrong on which number that is.
He's
but I
the
think he's
top lefty now.
Top lefty. I think he's at 19 home runs. At least it was coming into Game 7. We'll dive into the Phillies here in a second. Yeah. Does he deserve his flowers? Yes. I'm not going to give it to him because F. Altuve and F. the Astros. I don't care if it's only him and Bregman left on that team. Still, I don't care. Like, you did something, you got caught for something, you didn't,
Don't
and I'm
pull my
sorry,
jersey
Astros
off.
fans, but like, you can't deny they cheated. And
I agree.
he got no repercussion for it. He's still playing. He didn't have his ring taken away. He didn't have his stats vacated. Nothing. And I'm never going to. Sure, is he a great player? Yep. But there's always going to be that stigma and that.
Do you think that his chances of the Hall of Fame
Gone.
are gone because of that, and there is nothing that he could do on the field now and or future tense that would change what the outlook is for him being a Hall of Famer?
It's gonna take a lot, honestly.
And to add to that, do you compare that to the steroid thing as well? Like, where do those line up for you?
So I compare it to the Pete Rose thing. Pete Rose, the most hits, he's not in the Hall of Fame. You can look at Barry Bonds, right? You just mentioned steroids. Most home runs in MLB history. He's not in the Hall of Fame. Clement's one of the best pitchers to ever pitch in the game. He's not in the Hall of Fame. Altuve did something that I don't care what your thoughts are, whether you're an Astros fan or not. He cheated. He benefited from cheating. How many of his home runs, how many of his hits came from cheating? A buzzer of whatever it was that helped him. In my mind. What's that?
I think somebody said I saw it was like an exoskeleton that they were wearing.
Yeah. So
buzz on them.
To me, I mean, that's your punishment. I don't care how good you were. You deserve to be punished. And if not to, I don't necessarily agree with steroid people not being in, but if Manfred's not going to punish them, I'm okay with the baseball writers doing it. And I don't like the baseball writers usually being the voice of reason, right? Like, they are not the judge and the jury, but also, like, if you're going to keep
Sometimes
out
they have to be
the rest of the guys, I mean, hell, I mean, you got to keep Altuve out. Obviously, it's going to be a new guard by the time that even becomes a question, but
yeah,
is he a Hall of Famer? No. And I think that might be a discussion that we get to in a different day. But yeah, still.
Yeah, for me, if Pete Rose is not allowed to be in the Hall of Fame, then I don't know that Altuve will be, because at least Pete Rose was betting on his team to win, whereas,
right,
Altuve was just straight up cheating.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
So Game 5, Altuve hits the home run. They win. They're heading home. We have already gone over it. It's already history. The Rangers come back and win. They manhandle them in Game 6, and then in Game 7. Well, the best part about Game 6 is Garcia, who we've talked about multiple times. 0 for 4, golden sombrero, then ices away the game with not just a home run, a freaking grand slam. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, I'm pretty sure he stamped, I'm the MVP of this series if we win Game 7, no matter how we win Game 7. But he goes on into Game 7 and hits 2 more bombs. As Michael's graphic here shows you, postseason 7 home runs, but I think he hit 5 in that series. Did he not? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And 1 grand slam. He's got 20 RBIs. They've played 12 games. And he did this at the start of the season, too. He was on pace at the beginning of the season for an RBI a game. He's doing double that in the playoffs.
So he's doing that. I was going to say, he's doing the 20 RBIs. That's against the top-notch pitching, the best pitching. You're in the postseason. It's supposed to be the best pitching, high-leverage guys. No bad ball going on, and 20 RBIs.
And to that point, right, the one thing I would add to that is after his 0 for 4 with 4 Ks that Brandon mentioned, after that point, he went 5 for 6 with 3 home runs and I believe 9 RBIs in the next 6 at-bats.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
I was going to say Adolis has been just on fire. The guy who's coming up in the big moments But I think the guy who actually is the catalyst, and it's not Corey Seager, is Evan Carter. He's the guy who has been getting on base, moving things over. In 12 games, 3 stolen base. This guy barely has a month of Major League Baseball under his belt, and he is being a playmaker for the Rangers in big-time postseason baseball. This guy has been a catalyst for them. He lengthens that lineup. It's not relying on Nathan Lowe.
Yeah.
What did you say?
He's 21.
He's
21 doing it on the big stage. This is basically his tryout. He had not even a full month of September baseball. He's batting third.
Right. Third.
Oh, if only the Orioles would have called up Holiday.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
We'll get to a wet dream
his
here
double his double down the line in game 7 was what kind of put it on ice. Right? Like that's when they went up big. They broke it open. And it was his double down the line, with the bases loaded that did it. That's it's hard for me to believe that a kid that is legitimately 10 years younger than I am is playing in the World Series as a 21-year-old. That'll maybe I'll be over there at some point in time, man. I'm sorry.
So one other thing I want to throw out all there. This makes it feel so much better for 2 of the 3 of us. Is this right here? St. Louis Cardinals tweet on December 21st of 2019. We have traded outfielder Adolis Garcia to the Texas Rangers for cash considerations.
Love it.
And
so Radio Rosarena was on that team as well.
In 2021, the Texas Rangers DFA'd Adolis Garcia in 2021. Do you know who he got DFA'd for?
Josh Hamilton.
2021.
I'm joking.
2021, Seager, and they weren't on the team yet.
I'll give you a hint. It's a former Brave.
Elvis
it was
Andrus.
A former Brave. Mike Foltynewicz.
That's right. Folty was your ace at one point, too. He's a pride and joy of Lockport, Illinois, I believe, just outside of Chicago. But that's crazy. And he's back with the team. He just helped the team go to the World Series, and we'll go into our World Series picks here in a second. But that series lived up to it. I'm wondering what that's going to lead to as we move on into the next season. Dusty's retiring. That's a topic for later on in the podcast. Let's move on to the Phillies and the Diamondbacks series, because we can go into a lot of detail on a lot of this other stuff. But it's Phillies and Diamondbacks. Our last podcast title was Can Anyone Beat the Phillies? They were up 2-1 at the time, but as we were recording, they had just finished up game 3, which it seemed like the Diamondbacks kind of stole, and we were like, yeah, that's the Diamondbacks game to win. They're lucky to be here. They go on to win game 2, but they only won game 2 because they came back off of Craig Kimbrell with the 2-run home run by Al Thomas into the freaking pool, which was one of the coolest things I've seen. Like, I remember watching that going, no effing way. Like, the Phillies were up in that. And then Phillies win game 5, and you think, there's no way the Phillies are going to lose 2 games at Citizens Bank Park, which was by far the best atmosphere of any playoff host this postseason. Can we agree on that?
Yep,
100%. Yeah.
I mean, and Diamondbacks come out in game 6 and take the crowd out of it, and they do it in game 7 as well. What are our thoughts on the series as a whole? Did the Diamondbacks win it, or did the Phillies lose it?
Sorry. I think the Diamondbacks pitching won it. I think they showed up. Brandon Pfaadt showed up. Merrill Kelly showed up. The whole
in the 2
Diamondbacks
biggest games of the
bullpen.
season. Yeah.
Right. I think they won it. We talked about Zach Wheeler and I'm blanking. I can see him right now. Aaron Nola. Both of them being the dogs that were going to win it for them. And they did. They pitched. I mean, Wheeler did.
Wheeler did. Yeah.
I won't go against Aaron Nola, though. Like, you're not going to win a game when you only score 1 run in the playoffs. Right.
That's fair.
But go ahead. Yeah.
I think for me, the Diamondbacks won it. And I got a little man, I've been seeing a lot of negative stuff on the social media about the Diamondbacks, and maybe some of it's warranted, and maybe we'll get into the World Series preview and how that's going to play out. But if you're honestly sitting there telling me that the Diamondbacks don't deserve to be there, I'm sorry, I disagree. You know why? Because they were down 2-0. Okay, they were down 2-0 to the Phillies, and between games 3 and 4, somewhere along the lines, they basically said, if we're going to go out, we're going to go out playing Diamondback baseball. And they started stealing runs. They started putting pressure on the Phillies. And when that happened, the Phillies bats went silent. And that atmosphere in Philly went silent. And if you would have told me that coming into this series, that Zach Gallen would have given up, what do we say, 6 earned runs in two starts?
Mm-hmm.
I would have said there's absolutely zero chance that the Diamondbacks ever get past game 4.
Right.
But, man, you got to give them credit, man. They played gritty baseball. They stole bags. And I think prior to game 3, like Corbin Carroll didn't have a stolen base, and he ended up with, 5?
Yeah.
Like,
I
they played their
what
brand
turned
of
it
baseball.
around.
And we talked about that. They weren't hitting home runs. That was the Phillies offense. We talked about that in the preview. Man, they were stealing bases, doubles, triples, and you know what? They got a home run here or there. And to me, that's what won them the series. They put pressure on the Phillies, and the Phillies didn't respond.
Christian Walker stole a base in Game 7.
Yeah, and Kevin Ginkel,
Yep.
he came out, was awesome.
Max Scherzer, right? Number 37 for the Diamondbacks.
Exactly. Yeah, I got to give credit to them, man. And here's the last piece I'll say. The Diamondbacks going into Philly, and winning 2 games in the most hostile environment in baseball. 2 games in Philly. And you tell me they don't deserve to be there?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. I can't. I'm out on that. Yeah, they deserve to be there.
You know why, though? You know why they won?
Why's
There's
that?
one reason. They played the Brewers.
Yeah.
Did you see this stat?
I did see that, yeah.
Any team that the Brewers have ever lost to in the postseason has gone on to play in the World Series, which is a bonkers statistic. This was put out by Talking Baseball. That's
Every
5 times
team.
in the last 6 years and 9 times in the 53-year history. 6 out of the 8 have won the World Series. So a 75% chance just off of that statistic alone that the Arizona Diamondbacks are going to win the World Series. And we're going to make our World Series predictions here in a minute. But no, I think that the Diamondbacks, Wes just said it, they got back to Diamondbacks baseball. They got punched in the dick, not just punched in the gut. Like, they looked awful in games 1 and 2. They scrapped through game 3. Game 4, they came back again. And then in game 5, they gave it up to the Phillies. So, like, they went out and they changed. Torey Lovella said it right away before game 6. I want us to get back to Diamondback baseball. And Wes just said it perfectly. Chaos on the bases. We talked about it in the last podcast. Where was that chaos? Where was the stealing? We hadn't seen it at all. We talked about how many stolen bases there had been, and Bryson Stott had the most, I think, and he only had 3. Corbin Carroll stealing bases. They're just causing chaos. The Phillies bats go silent, but that's partially because of the pitching. And Brandon Pfaadt, who'd have thought at the beginning of the postseason that was going to be the best pitcher for the Diamondbacks so far?
Right.
Has he given up an earned run yet? Maybe 1. I think he gave. You know what? I think he gave up a couple in Game 7 when Philly went up. But still, like, we said, okay, yeah, Diamondbacks have 2 pitchers, but from there we don't know who's going to be able to do it, right? Like, they got Gallen, Merrill's good, but he's not a number 2, not a number 3. Diamondbacks came out and they answered questions. They played Arizona Diamondback baseball, and they deserve to be there. I agree. Sure. 84 and 72, right? Is that what it was? 84 and 78. 84 and 78.
Yeah.
84 and 78. Sure. Cardinals won the World Series in 2011. at 83 and 59, or 83 and 79. And we'll get to that in a second here with our World Series preview. But hats off to the Diamondbacks. I liked them all year. I thought that they were a year ahead of schedule. I thought these were like the 2015 Cubs where they made it to the NLCS, they got their experience, and then maybe next year they make a bigger move in the offseason and then they leapfrog themselves into the World Series and use that experience. I did not expect a World Series, so hats off to the Diamondbacks. Hats off to their fans. After a $13 to get in the building in Game 3, they packed that place for Games 4 and 5. Yeah. So let's talk about the World Series. First off, these two teams, like we mentioned at the beginning, were not the two teams we expected to be here, and that's okay. But what do we think about the matchup? Rangers, Diamondbacks. Are you jacked? Are you just like, okay?
Oh man. Me personally, and I think this is probably the case for most people like us who are baseball fanatics, they're your people that watch no matter what,
You're people who watch players rather than
Yeah.
just a team as a whole. It's not a college football type of thing. It's a NFL type of thing where you watch the individual players.
Yeah. I think the true baseball fan is going to watch and they'll enjoy it regardless. I think this is my fear. The general baseball fan is going to look at this matchup, and this is kind of what I was alluding to on the things I've seen on Twitter, where the Diamondbacks don't deserve to be there, the Rangers don't deserve to be there. Like, your general baseball fan probably won't tune in until maybe Game 5 or 6, because when we started this season, 0 people had Diamondbacks, Texas Rangers. I'm sorry, one guy in Vegas had Diamondbacks,
He's
Rangers
in Michigan.
in the World Series. And so your general fan is going to tune in and be like, Rangers, Diamondbacks, who wants to watch this, right? And not know any of the players. The Diamondbacks don't have any major players, right? If you didn't watch the regular season, you don't know who Corbin Carroll is. And like, for me, that is kind of irritating, because the general fan and the non-baseball fan, like, just aren't going to tune in. Like, that's my fear. Unlike, the NFL, even if you don't know anything about football, you're probably watching the Super Bowl, right? I don't think that's going to happen here, unfortunately, because people, even the general baseball fan, is like angry about the format, complaining about the Diamondbacks being in, complaining about a 6 versus 5 seed. So honestly, like, I don't agree with that personally. I do think both teams deserve to be there. I enjoy watching the players that are there. And I think the Diamondbacks are showing you what the future of a winning baseball team in the playoffs is looking like, because it's not going to be won by the high profile players anymore. I think it's going to be the gritty teams that make it.
I am going to go out there and say that I am so disappointed with how much of a break there was between Game 2 and Game 3 for the Phillies. That's what lost this for them. There was too much of a break between Game 2 and Game 3 of the NLCS. There should not have been a one-day break. They should have played the next day. Oh, sorry. That's just been the narrative the entire playoffs, right? And I'm even kind of picking on you with that a little bit, Wes, because of the fact that a couple of weeks ago you, for lack of a better word, kind of bitching about it, right? But am I wrong? Right? Like,
no, you're not wrong. You're right. I was fully prepared to bitch for like 30 minutes about that.
But yeah, they deserve to be there, and I can't take credit for the whole thing. I believe it was Joe Sheehan who tweeted that out. He said the Phillies had too much rest after Game 2. But
now,
go, Michael.
Go ahead. I was going to say, Wes was talking to me before we started recording and said that in the last 10 years, the World Series has been on the decline, has not been very watched in the last 10 years. You know why that is. It's because the Astros or Dodgers have been in it since 2017. And so that's why baseball fans should be watching, is because it's not the Astros or the Dodgers. Yeah. It's different. There's some parity finally.
Right. I was going to say
exciting young team.
That exact word was what I was going to use. Is I've used it kind of all year. As we've had parity in the league.
Complexity.
Yeah, complexity. That's a bourbon and baseball podcast conversation there. So if you're looking for more bourbon, go head on over to our complex tastings at BNB Bourbon on YouTube.
Mike's only one drink in.
The word parody, right? We talked about it most of the year. The Orioles, the Reds, the Rays, hell, the Rangers, the Diamondbacks, the Cubs and the Marlins, right? They were in, multiple different teams made the playoffs this year. Even compared to last year, the Mariners didn't make it this year, but they were in contention. Now, they were there last year, but the Blue Jays are a nice team to see rather than the Boston Red Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Astros every year, in and out. It seemed for the last decade. This was the first time that Boston or New York hadn't made the playoffs in the same year in like a decade plus or whatever.
That's great.
So parody's great, and I do agree with you on that, Michael. Is that there should be excitement for the fact that it's a different group that's in here. It's new blood. It's going to be historic either way because the Rangers have never won the World Series ever, franchise history. The Diamondbacks could become the first National League team to ever win a World Series with a negative run differential. It's only been done once, and that was by the Twins back in 1987. They had a -20. The Diamondbacks are only the second team in history to reach the World Series. Thank you to ESPN Stats and Info for that one. And Minnesota actually won that World Series. So even though the Diamondbacks were a -15, they don't deserve to be here. The Twins did in 87. Who says that they can't do it this year? The Cardinals won it at 83 and 79 in 2011 against the Texas Rangers, who the Diamondbacks are playing. And the Diamondbacks only won 84 games this year. So I'm excited. It's baseball. It's on the greatest stage with great players that we're going to be introduced. Like the baseball fan who hasn't been able to watch Corbin Carroll this year. Now we've watched him, right? We watched Adolis. We've watched, Michael has on Pornhub, so Evan Carter, but
he's only been here for a month.
It's 21. So no, you watched MILB. That's what I was saying.
Yes, I do. Wes watches some MILB.
Oh, so Wes is the Major League Pornhub account then.
Yeah. I follow the pipeline. I follow Jonathan
pipeline, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know who's the most
great
surprised?
content. You should check it out.
You know who's the most happily surprised that the Diamondbacks are making the World Series is Lourdes Gurriel Jr.
Oh yeah.
After being on the Blue Jays, who looked like they were going to be the team to make it to the playoffs at the beginning of the season, and then he got traded.
And Gabriel Moreno.
But I'm going back to Gurriel tweeting, "Oh right, who did we get? I'm excited."
Oh no, that was a fan account. I don't believe that was
that a fan
his
account?
actual
That wasn't
account.
actually
Yeah.
him?
It was just like Lourdes Gurriel fan account. Yeah.
Oh, that was fantastic.
I remember that now.
Yeah, right before the season, Michael and I were having a good laugh about that. So the World Series is here. Two teams. It's the first time. This is the lowest combined wins ever in World Series history. 174 combined between the 84 and the 90 from the Diamondbacks and the Rangers. But 2 years ago, these two teams lost 100 plus games. 2 years ago. We're not talking like 5 or 6. We're not talking that they were in contention last year either, because I believe Texas only won 60-something games last year. I think 64 and 98. They finished with 2 of the worst 3 records in 2021, and they're playing for the ultimate goal. And in 2 different ways, right? The Texas Rangers, how much money have they spent in the last 2 years?
Yeah, the 2 complete opposite ends of the spectrum as far as how to build a team. What Chris Young and the Rangers have done, they've gone out and they've purchased those guys. And they had a little bit of luck too, as far as Adolis repeating what he did last year. And, when Jonah Heim went down, Mitch Garver stepped in and absolutely caught fire. Obviously the signing of Seager, the signing of Simeon. Josh Young came in and set the world
could have been
on
rookie
fire
of the
as a
year
rookie.
if it wasn't for an injury.
Had he not gotten hurt, he might have been the rookie of the year. I don't anticipate that he does, but man, they've had a lot of good things happen.
Jackson Holiday's going to win rookie of the year, isn't he?
Yes, next
Sorry.
year he will.
No, this year. Just for how great of his minor league year. No, just kidding. Not to cut you off, but I agree there.
No,
Wes.
you're right.
Like the two different teams, two different mindsets. I mean, 4/5 of the frickin' Rangers rotation weren't on the team at the beginning of 2023, right? Like Evaldi, Haney. Now Haney's not pitching in the World Series, but Montgomery and Scherzer, and you could even say John Gray that they went out and got last year before the year. And he's not even a starting pitcher in the playoffs, but he's pitching in the playoffs for you. And then you look at second and shortstop. You went out and got the 2020 fake World Series MVP in Corey Seager. You've got Simeon. You've got guys on this team who've done it with Scherzer and Seager. No matter what you can say, Seager went to the playoffs for how many years with the Dodgers. Simeon was a veteran. But you're getting Lowe to chime in. He's a veteran amongst some of the younger guys, but Leody Taveras is finally coming to play. Adolis, right? Evan Carter, 21. But you look at the Diamondbacks, and the Diamondbacks, Michael, is a team that you've talked about. I remember you gushing over them in the offseason, and you were the one who really opened my eye on what they had, and that's when I did more research.
I had them winning the division at the preseason.
You had the Padres winning the division at the preseason.
No, I had the Diamondbacks winning the division with the
didn't.
Dodgers missing it.
I've got the graphics here, pal. Stay tuned. So keep going.
Scenario for challenging the replay.
Yes, let's throw a flag on the play.
Throw the red flag. Where's it at?
So the Diamondbacks, talk about how they did it, Michael.
So the Diamondbacks really they're kind of the year ahead. It's their 2015 Cubs. Damn. So
what he's saying damn to is I've proved him wrong.
They're the Cubs. They really had Corbin Carroll, who was supposed to be this exactly what he was.
Rookie of the year.
Rookie of the year. I think he was almost even better than advertised.
He would at some point we were talking about a consideration of him and Acuna being MVP at the middle of June, right? He's not only just putting up rookie of the year numbers, but MVP numbers. Right.
But I mean, they didn't go. This wasn't the go in it all in type of year for them. They had, I mean, Madison Bumgarner was on their team in April. He was designated for assignment in April. And then as the graphic shows here, Corbin Carroll, the second youngest player since Ty Cobb to record 3+ hits and have 2 stolen bases in postseason history. In one game. I'm sorry, in one game. 3 hits and 2 stolen bases in one game since Ty Cobb.
In his postseason statistics. Now, he's not slugging like he was in the regular season, I would say. But he's doing everything else.
No, right. The guy was a mini, like Brandon just alluded to there, almost Acuna-like in the skill set. He was more advertised for power and speed, and he was hitting for average as well.
He just doesn't have the arm that Acuna's got. That would be my one critique.
No, he does not.
And I think he was taking some pressure on him because he made a terrible play. Was it in Game 6? It may have been Game 6 where he airmailed. I think it was because that was when the Phillies, it looked like we're going to get back into the game. He airmailed the cutoff man, and it allowed for Marsh, I believe, to get to second base on the base hit, the RBI base hit.
Was that Merrill Kelly game?
Yes.
And Merrill Kelly can't still shut him down.
Yep. So Corbin Carroll, Alec Thomas, Lourdes Gurriel, right? Like he's been in the Big Brother shadows for the last how many years? Yuli has been the better of the two. And I remember people saying, we're trying to get Yuli to court Lourdes. I've always been told Lourdes was the better of the talent. And they were trying, like the Astros tried to get Yuli so they could get Lourdes. And he decided to go to a different route because they were both Cuban players who could sign wherever. But he's in left field. They made that move for Dalton Varsho. You got Moreno behind the plate, who's turned out to be probably the best arm behind the plate right now in the game.
Oh, yeah.
First base,
his bat's coming around. Even his bat's coming around Moreno.
Ketel Marte, who just won the MVP, right? You've got Carroll, Gurriel, Moreno, like Michael popping up the graphic. Marte batted .358. So far in he's slugging 604. Ketel Marte, who's been doing it for a while. He's the only one who's still on the team. I think there's two of them who have been on the team since the last playoffs. You didn't see it, but the balloons are back. The graphic covered it, but yeah, you can't see it. But I believe Marte was one of the only ones who's still on the team the last time that they made the playoffs in 2017. So it's not a guy that he's been an all-star, but he's not the blood of the team. But shortstop, I mean, you got the rookie Lawler who's not getting a whole bunch of time, but Perdomo
showed up. He had a big home run for him to start things off in one of the games.
Longoria.
He stole some bases too, man.
Perdomo, yeah.
Late in that series, there were huge bases.
And then you know who the most expensive player on the Diamondbacks is right now, right?
Evan Longoria.
Diamondbacks?
Mm-hmm.
Is it Longoria?
Nope.
I bet he's not on the team.
It's Madison Bumgarner.
Madison Bumgarner. It's probably Madison Bumgarner.
Oh no. Ketel Marte is making 13.6. Madison Bumgarner's making 14 million.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah, and Mark Melanson's on that team.
Well,
salary at $5 million, and he hasn't pitched yet.
Hey, so, Matt Bum did text Bochy and say, "Hey, I'm ready to pitch if you need me." So who knows? Maybe the Diamondbacks are paying him $14 million to pitch against them in the World Series.
You know what Boch said? No, homie, you suck. But
not this time, Matt.
So to kind of make it full circle, Bochy, now the coach for the Rangers. He was one of the managers that beat the Rangers in the World Series back in the 2010s, and that was in 2010 as the manager of the Giants, the first of that three-year run for the Giants when they won 3 out of 5. I mean, their playoff history, they've never won the World Series. This is the third time they've won the AL pennant. Division titles a little more, and they didn't even win it this year, right? This is their wild card berth here in 2023. They got it in 12 and 13, but they hadn't made the playoffs in 16. So they were one of the longer droughts in the game. They come and they go all the way. And they had the division all year until the final day of the year. The Diamondbacks have won the World Series. That was in 01. In 2001 on the walk-off hit by Luis Gonzalez. That's also when they won the NL pennant. But also they've only won the division 5 times in history, and they've made it on the wild card 2 times. So go ahead.
To that point, right? The people that are bitching and complaining about the Rangers and the Diamondbacks not being the team they wanted in the World Series, the Rangers controlled their division like 92% of the year, and the Diamondbacks controlled the West over the Padres and the Dodgers up until almost July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm sorry, but they're both really good teams and they deserve to be there.
Agreed. I mean, the Diamondbacks, the Rangers, they both had big guys step up. Garcia, Seager. Who's number 4 there, Michael?
Josh Jung.
Grimm.
Who's Grimm?
Who's Grimm? Oh, the catcher.
Garver?
Heim.
I
don't know how Grimm got out of Heim.
Justin Grimm, he's a pitcher. Sorry, I was literally not trying to make fun of you. I'm trying to figure out.
My phone auto-corrected it to Grimm.
It's Halloween. We're trying to get a shout out to Heim in there.
The Heim, is that what you just said?
G and H are next to each other, and so is E and R. So I wonder if it auto-corrected it on me or something. I don't know.
I'm not trying to make fun. I'm literally trying to figure out. I was like, who the hell would this
be? Can you not figure out? It says Jung, you moron.
Well, that's the third one. And he had a great series versus the Astros. Evan Carter over 300 in the playoffs. The Diamondbacks guys stepping up. Christian Walker. Here's what I want to do. He hasn't had the great postseason yet. I wonder if he's going to be the sleeper going into the World Series. And we're going to make our predictions here in a second.
I think so, Brandon, because look at that bottom line. in 12 games, the dude had 11 walks and only 14 strikeouts. So I think he's been overly either not he's not being pitched to, but he's also been maybe a little
He's been pressing a little bit, you think?
yeah, either or just passive. He hasn't been aggressive at all. He hasn't been going after his pitch. He's been trying to maybe work the count a little bit, and I wonder if he's going to explode after seeing Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, probably the best pitcher, better than any pitcher on the Texas Rangers. And I wonder if he could be in for a great series.
Yeah. And on the converse, a guy on the Rangers who hasn't had the best series is Marcus Semien. He hasn't hit a bomb yet. I think he had 29 this past year. In 12 games, though, he's walking as much as he's striking out, so I'll take that. Is he going to be the guy that breaks out?
Yeah. I think he's too good of a hitter. I think he's too good of a hitter, man. And I don't know that the Diamondbacks are going to have the same book on him as, the Astros that play them so many times during the regular season. And the Rays, same thing. They're all the AL opponents, I think, have like a full scouting report on how they would get Semien out. I don't know if the Diamondbacks will have the same one. Obviously, there's advanced scouts. They probably watched just as much on how they were getting Semien out. I also think he's just had a little bit of bad luck, man. There were some balls that he hit hard that just didn't get through. So I do have a bone to pick with MLB personally because they ranked number 9 on the power rankings, the hitter power rankings going into the MLB. I don't know, man. I think he's just too good of a hitter to go through a 7-game series in the World Series and not show out at least somehow. If he goes the entire postseason and doesn't hit a home run, I would be surprised. There's no way he goes.
Then MLB put balls in there to keep him from hitting home run.
Yeah, the Goldilocks balls are coming back. Again, we talked about it. Umpire goes in the left socket. That's the Goldilocks ball. Umpire goes in the right socket. That's the regular baseball. Just whoever's behind the plate, give me a left socket balls whenever Semien comes up. All right.
So let's talk pitching. You mentioned the fact that you don't think that they're going to be facing the type of pitchers that Wheeler or Nola have been. But, I mean, I think we got another Big Dick Nick. But this instead of Nick Foles like in the playoffs, we've got Nate Eovaldi, Big Dick Nate when it comes to the postseason. This dude just continues to show up in the big moments. He did it with the Red Sox in 18. He's doing it with the Texas Rangers. If you're throwing Scherzer,
these are postseason numbers, right?
These are postseason numbers, yeah. Montgomery's been great.
Like, look at their strikeout to walk ratio. Like, that's awesome. That's awesome. And Montgomery did outpitch Verlander, by the way. I just want to throw that out there.
Twice.
The Rangers didn't know if Eovaldi was going to be healthy for the playoffs or not.
He had a forearm issue, didn't he?
Yeah.
In the middle of the season? Yeah.
And look at these postseason numbers of 26 innings and 4 starts.
Well, he was a workhorse when he was healthy earlier. That's more than 6 innings a start. That's 6 and about a half per start. So you're not getting half innings. And Montgomery's gone 25 innings in 28 hits. But in Scherzer, I'm going to say that's more so rust for Scherzer than it's inefficiency.
Yeah, and he's been on a pitch count too, right? Like we saw in Game 7, they took him out with 44 pitches at that time.
Right.
Maybe they let him go a little longer this time around. Maybe he's up to 65. But
as they say in the Waterboy, when they put Waterboy on offense, last game of the year, man, can't hold anything back.
Can't hold anything back now.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a 3-headed rotation that the way the first two are pitching, and you have Max Scherzer, who for the last decade has been one of the top 3, top 5 pitchers in the league. Oof. But then you look at the Diamondbacks pitching, and
so crazy.
The one guy who has been the Cy Young for most of the season has been the worst of the 3.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and once again, look at that strikeout to walk ratio for Gallen, right? Like that's the reason he's given up 13 earned runs. And Brennan Pfaadt, like he's coming into his own. He's really showing you why he was second in the MILB last year in strikeouts. So 3 walks, 22 Ks in 16 and 2. Man, if he can pitch like that, and you get a little better version of Gallen, I like the Diamondbacks' chances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, we trashed the Diamondbacks pitching every series preview, I think, Brandon.
Mhm.
At least I did, and said they don't have it. They don't have it.
Outside of
You
Gallen.
can't trust. Yeah, outside of Gallen, you can't trust Fat. You don't know what you're getting out of Merrill Kelly. Come on, it's Merrill Kelly,
Right.
and Merrill Kelly showed up.
He did get knocked around, I believe, in Philly, didn't he? In game 1 that he pitched in. 4 earned runs in 5 2/3. But we also question whether or not he got pulled at the right time. But still, yeah. I mean, again, are we overlooking the Diamondbacks?
Lourdes Gurriel show up. Tommy Pham show up. I think it's just
Pham,
Christian.
That's another name.
Christian Walker. Christian Walker can hit more than 1 home run. Tommy Pham has been showing up for them. He might not be hitting for average, but the guy has been doing well. That's all I can say about him.
Okay, so here we go. This is 2 wild card teams, right? Number 5, number 6. There we go again. I'm magic. For those of you listening on our podcast platforms, that is Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, and Amazon. What you've missed is I did something with my hands that was magical, ladies, and there are some balloons that popped up on the screen. But
how does he do it?
And for 3 podcasts, we have not figured out why it happens.
Yeah, it's freaking magic.
We
I
can't
think it's
replicate
something
it.
with an iPhone or a Mac of some sort because
it is it's got to be the Mac because that's like an iMessage balloon.
Yeah.
I have a
Because-
Mac though.
but I was on a phone
You
call.
just don't have the magic fingers.
That's
Come on, Wes, I'll teach you my
probably
ways.
true.
But
Yeah.
so this is the 3rd time all time that 2 wildcard teams will be facing in the World Series. The previous 2 matchups, I'd say the 2002 Angels and Giants World Series was a damn good one. That was Dusty and Barry Bonds and Dusty Baker's son Darren getting picked up at home plate and the Angels winning it in 2002. And then the 2014 Royals and Giants World Series was a good one. Both of these series went 7 games. So, I mean, I'm excited for this series. So let's jump into it. Before we pick our winners and before we pick our award winners and all of that, I want to talk about each position and where it matches up, right? So let's start with who has the advantage at first base. Are we going
Christian
with
Walker?
Christian Walker or Nathaniel Lowe?
3 righties on the mound for the Diamondbacks. Personally, I'm going to go Nate Lowe. He hasn't been much better than Christian Walker, but he has come up big in a couple moments. The opposite field home run he hit, I think, in game
Off of Framber, I believe.
Framber, yeah, lefty on lefty, game 5 maybe. I'm gonna go Nate Lowe over Christian Walker right now. I don't think he's a better player. I think Christian Walker is maybe the most underrated player, but just right now, I think Nate Lowe is a little hotter.
Bernsey?
Christian Walker.
Okay, I'm going to go Christian Walker. So we're going Christian Walker at first base. Sorry, Wes. So let's move on to second. Ketel Marte or Marcus Semien? I think this might be one of the most difficult conversations out of them all.
Not for me. I think it's Ketel Marte. I'm a Ketel Marte fan.
Yeah, I think Marte as well.
Ketel Marte. I'm going with the guy who's done it longer and who's been an MVP candidate for multiple years, Marcus Semien, but majority rules on this, so we're going with Marte at second base. I would disagree just for the fact that I think that Semien hasn't shown what he's been able to, and I'm just saying I think you guys have a little bit of recency bias. I'm okay with that.
Ketel Marte has the most hits out of any player in the playoffs.
And He's got a hit in his last 16 postseason games.
I believe so. So let's move on towards shortstop. Corey Seager or Perdomo?
Corey Seager.
Wes?
Might have to go Corey Seager.
Yeah, I actually
Dude goes
thought you were
3 for
actually
5 in Game 7.
I thought you were actually questioning it there for a second, Wes. I was like, oh my gosh.
Like,
I
is
mean,
he insane?
I was gonna get after him about the whole first round bye type of deal, but oh my.
So, who do we want to say at third base for the Diamondbacks?
I think Longo's started more games, right?
I thought Rivera has more so lately.
Maybe I'm wrong.
At least I think in the second half of the series.
Rivera always comes in, even if Longo starts, Rivera comes in to finish.
Yeah.
I think so. Rivera played in 4 out of the 7 games, and he started 3 out of them. So let's go Longo. So Longo or Josh Jung?
Wes?
I got Young. Longo just looks a little lost at the plate right now. He's swinging it. He's swinging and missing a lot, and which is sad. I want Longo to succeed, but Jung.
Yeah, Jung. Evan Longoria's fast twitch muscles aren't there anymore. He's old.
Fast. Slow twitch. Homie needs Cialis at the plate right now. He went 1 for 15 in the final 5 games of that series ongoing.
That one
Young
was big.
Well. It was a double in the gap, wasn't it?
Yes.
So
the
right
next
field,
advertisement for him.
right field. Okay, this is going to be the most controversial, I think. Corbin or Adolis?
Oh,
Michael is so torn right now.
I am so torn, but how can you go against Adolis and his 7 home runs in 12 games?
Mm-hmm.
Can we put Carroll in center field? Because he does play center field when Alec Thomas isn't playing.
But he primarily has not played center field. So we're going to say Corbin or Adolis. Wes, 3, 2, 1. Corbin. All right. So I'm going to be the tiebreaker, and I'm going Garcia. So Garcia is our right fielder. Let's go to center field, and that is going to be Alec Thomas or Leody Taveras.
I'll jump right here. I like Alec Thomas. I like the wheels that he has, his defense. He did show some signs of getting the bat going. He didn't have the best line, but he did have a game where I think he had 2 hits. So I'll go Alec Thomas.
Alec Thomas, what are you going with there,
Mr.
West?
That one's tough for me, but I gotta agree with Burns there. I think Alec Thomas provides you a little better defense. Anything you get offensively out of those two is just kind of a cherry on top. So Alec Thomas for me.
I'm going to go Alec Thomas as well, just because when Burnsy and I saw him in person, he looked identical to Corbin Carroll, and we couldn't figure out who the hell was who. So Alec Thomas is in center field. So then we go to left field. The Diamondbacks have Lourdes Gurriel, and then in left field is Michael's other boy crush, because he's still 21, Evan Carter.
I like Lourdes. I like what he has the patience at the plate. But Evan Carter has been showing up all postseason and his whole major league career so far.
Yeah, Evan Carter's just a spark plug for them, man. I don't know how to describe it. Like, he gets them going, and then Adolis comes through. So
that was a hard one, though. That wasn't as easy as I made it sound.
So,
yeah, agreed.
Finally, catcher. We've got Gabriel Moreno or Jonah Heim. It's also tough, isn't it?
Can we go combination of Jonah Heim, Mitch Garver?
No,
because Garver's been more so the DH, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think Heim's caught.
Yeah, I think Heim's caught like an extraordinary amount in a row.
Yeah.
Can we hold on? Let me pop this graphic up. There's Heim's Grim and is Heim. That's his line there.
And then there's Moreno. So 279, 345, 12 for Moreno. And then Grimheim is 245, 288, 367. I am going to say Moreno because not only has he provided more offensively, I think defensively, he is the better catcher, and he did not get hit in the balls.
I concur.
Yeah, Moreno is a difference maker behind the plate, calling the games, throwing out runners. So
Yeah, I totally agree there. And then finally, DH, Tommy Pham or Mitch Garver?
Garver.
I disagree. Tommy Pham will put one over in a moment for you. I think he's a great, not spark plug, but he's better.
Garver hit an opposite field home run, man.
I'm going with Tommy Pham as well because I think Tommy finally has figured things out.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm not a huge Tommy fan.
No, yeah, right.
So that hurts a little bit to go with, but I'm going with Tommy Pham. Now let's go starting pitching rotation. This is a conglomerate. It's not just a single starting pitcher, but if you had to pick one rotation over the other, who are you going with? Texas or Arizona?
This is tough because
This might be the toughest one, honestly.
I wanted, after what Merrill Kelly and Brandon Pfaadt have done, I really want to say they have the better rotation. But the Texas Rangers have the best pitcher in Nasty Nate.
Yeah.
And I
He
think
even had the best success out of the three in their starting staff. Right? Theoretically, if you look at statistics, ERA goes to Jordan Montgomery. I'm also going to go with Texas, but I do think it's a lot closer than any of us would have thought 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm going to agree there. I think for Texas, if they can maintain their strikeout to walk ratio and they can keep the freebies for the Diamondbacks off the bases so that the Diamondbacks can't create havoc, I got to go with the Rangers.
And that's the big deal here is look at the two studs for Arizona. Within their 5 games between the two of them, they've got 17 walks in a quick math of 39 innings pitched. So that's a walk every other inning, where the Rangers' two best pitchers in more innings pitched, 51 innings pitched, have a combined 8 total free passes. And Nate Eovaldi's got 28 Ks in 26 innings. So I'm going Texas as well. But then let's look at the bullpen. Who has the better bullpen? Is it Texas or is it Arizona?
Diamondbacks for me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Seawald hasn't given up an earned run. Geeko hasn't given up an earned run.
Right. That was really. Did the Diamondbacks make any other major splash at the trade deadline besides Seawald?
They traded away
Chafin.
Chafin, yeah. And
Yeah,
got
Andrew
Seawald, and that was it. They didn't really do a whole lot other than that, but that solidified their back end of the bullpen. Ginkel showed some nuts the other night.
And then the rookie, Saul Franks.
Yeah, Saul Frank,
man. Out of the left side. They also have another lefty who's been shutting things down for them. I'm also going with the D-backs out of the bullpen. I don't trust Aroldis Chapman.
Zaboras with 104 to the back of the leg.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that. Was that intentional?
No.
Yes, 100% intentional.
It was.
He hasn't 100%. He hasn't hit 104 all postseason.
Yeah, he threw it as hard as he possibly could in that general direction.
They had already cemented the game. Mm-hmm. I do partially throw part of that on McCormick because if you watch the replay, he extended his leg into it. He probably thought it was going to be more inside, and it ended up being even more inside behind him.
Have you seen the picture of his bruise?
I saw a bruise.
And it's just started.
Yeah, I think that was on purpose, but I don't think it was for the Adolis hit. I think it was for the Mitch Garver hit by pitch.
I agree.
Because that one hurt. That was 98 to the ribs on Garver. So getting back to the bullpen, I don't trust Chapman. I don't trust Leclerc either. He, in the last couple of games, looked gettable. Seawald, 1, 2, 3 versus that Phillies lineup multiple times. So I'm going to the D-backs there. So here we go. We're jumping right in to our predictions. Who is going to win the World Series? Wes Hughes.
Rangers.
Michael Burns.
Diamondbacks.
Oh, well, that changes everything.
He's like, yeah, I gotta change it. I gotta change it now.
I already had the graphic made for myself, ready to go. I was going to pick the Diamondbacks to win the World Series, but as we found out, Michael Burns picked the Atlanta Braves. He also picked the Houston Astros. Every team this son of a gun goes against.
Pick the Phillies.
He picked the
But the
Phillies.
bird. But the bird.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
The bird. I can't go against the bird.
I thought we were getting there.
Yeah, so let's discuss it. Randy Johnson killed a bird in 2001, and we gotta talk about that
with a baseball.
With a baseball. Zach Gallen did it again this year, didn't he?
Yeah, the only two instances of it ever happening.
So does that mean that the Diamondbacks are going to win? That's why you're picking them?
They're destined. I think they have the better arms of rotation, defense. They don't have Nasty Nate, but they've got more length. I'll end with that. So, Brandon, what were you going with? Yeah, there it is. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
I was going to go with the Arizona Diamondbacks because I like them. I think that they are a team that has shown that they, no matter what has been put in front of them, they can overcome it. I counted them out in first week of August when they lost 8 or 9 in a row. I'm like, oh, they're done, and they came back. As we've seen them in person this year, Michael. How frustrating of a team were they to watch as an opponent, right? Like, they frustrate you. They got back to Diamondbacks baseball. They're not a team that makes mistakes, right? Mistakes usually kill you in the playoffs. The Rangers got away with a couple. The Diamondbacks did make some mistakes, but then they got back to it. I had my Texas hat here ready to go just in case Michael picked Diamondbacks, and I was debating. But I am going to stay with the Diamondbacks on this one. I do think that they're our team that, man, it'll be fun to see if they can pull this out. Let's see. Oh, come on.
While you're doing that, I'm going to play devil's advocate. For me, it's simply about the experience. Bruce Bochy has won 3. He's been there, done that. Seager's won 1. He's been there, done that. Scherzer's been there, done that. And I don't think that there is anybody on the Diamondbacks roster that has been in a World Series. Maybe Evan Longoria. But outside of that, I don't know that they've been there. So that's what it comes down to for me. I think these teams match up very well, player to player, offense to offense. They get it done in 2 completely different ways. But I think the Rangers they have the experience, and ultimately in situations like this, high leverage, high stress situations, when you've been there and done that, you make less mistakes, like we're talking about. So that, for me, I think the Rangers are the team.
Yeah, I can fully appreciate that, but we talked about it at the beginning of the postseason, and I said it about the Orioles, but I think I just missed on which freaking team was going to have it. It's that innocence and that ignorance, right? Like, we haven't been here.
Mm-hmm.
Who gives a damn? And that's why I think the Diamondbacks have been that team where fully I totally thought it was going to be the Orioles. That's who I'm going with, as I'm going to go with the Arizona Diamondbacks. So, with that said, in how many games, Wes?
I'm going to go Rangers in 6.
Wes, Rangers in 6. Michael?
Diamondbacks in 5.
Whoa.
Burns in 5. So that means this puppy's going at least 7, and that is where I'm going with. I already had it made out. I'm going with the DBacks in 7. So, go ahead.
I was going to say,
Michael. Yep.
One little tidbit I wanted to point out. Did you guys know that the Diamondbacks also have a TV celebrity on their team?
I'm not on their team.
Have you guys watched How I Met Your Mother?
Barney? Yeah.
Yeah, where Lily's dad.
Oh,
Merrill Kelly looks just like Lily's dad. Does he not?
he does. He's
He does.
totally
He does like him.
Christopher Elliott. Mr. Messed Up Hands from
Yes.
Something About Mary, right?
Let me start with my let me start with my good hand. That's exactly
Good
who Merrill Kelly
Lord.
looks like.
Good Lord. Also,
I
I had to go
can't believe I
pull
can't
this
stop.
hat out of storage, gentlemen. This is old school.
Oh,
like,
wow.
this says one size fits all. Doesn't even have an. And back when the hats looked like this inside.
It was Brandon's Little League hat. He
This
just
is
had a
to-
big.
no,
he just
I'm-
had a big head then.
So I have family in
So-
Arizona. I almost went to game 3 the other day because it was $13, but flights were $950, and I'm like, yeah, maybe not. So I'm going Diamondbacks in 7. So here's the question: who is going to be the World Series MVP? Wes.
Oh man. So my bold prediction was going to be that a rookie not named Corbin Carroll will win the MVP. So I picked the Rangers. I'm gonna pick Josh Young.
Oh,
No,
I
no.
thought you were about to say Evan Carter.
I'm gonna say Evan Carter.
Oh.
Evan Carter's gonna win the MVP in the World Series. It's gonna happen.
Michael Burns.
So, Wes, we must be on the similar thinking. I have the same thing of a rookie will win the World Series MVP, but it's not Corbin Carroll. It's Brandon Pfaadt. He is going to show up and he's going to get 2 wins.
2 wins. How's he going to do that in 5 games when he's only starting 1?
Hey, hold on. We don't know the rotation yet. We might.
Oh,
You
it's-
might. I don't.
They're totally going Gallen, Kelly, and then Fott. 1,
Okay,
2,
so-
3.
Okay, so maybe I didn't think that all the way through.
So, okay, we're going.
So let's just
with
say Corbin
Brandon
Carroll.
No.
Let's back that up. Let's just say Corbin Carroll, World Series MVP.
Okay, so Corbin Carroll, Josh Young, and so I'm going with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Over the last several years, there's only been like probably 2 or 3. Let's go with the last 10. Okay, so 3 total big name at the time World Series MVPs. Corey Seager, he wasn't the best. He wasn't the best player on that team, right? In 2020, I would say that Bellinger would have probably been the guy you would have assumed, right? Steven Strasburg is the one. Salvi Perez in 2015, and then Madison Bumgarner in 2014, and I could even throw in 2013 David Ortiz, right? But you've got names like Ben Zobrist for the Cubs, George Springer for the Astros. Do you know who won it in 2018 for the Red Sox? Yeah, I could give you 25 guesses. You won't even guess because you probably don't.
18.
Isn't Eovaldi?
Nope.
No,
Steven Pierce.
no chance. Oh, he got on. I remember he caught fire in that World
333, 3 home runs with 8 RBIs. 1167 slug percentage. And the only reason that you know who won the MVP in 2021, Wes, is because it's your team. But Michael, do you know who won in 2021?
Marcell Ozuna.
Jorge Soler.
I'm sorry, Ozuna from the Braves.
Ozuna from the Braves.
Excuse me.
So I'm looking at it, and this is going to be a guy that you don't expect, right? It's going to be a guy that stands up. Part of me wants to say Tommy Pham.
Oh, I know you were. Oh, dang it.
But I'm going with Christian Walker because that's the guy who it's not the guy you're looking at right now that you think is going to be. Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, even Moreno would be easier answers. But I think that Christian Walker finally figures it out. I think that Christian Walker might be top 3 most underrated players in all of baseball, not just at first base, but between him and Kyle Tucker.
Agreed.
You could have an argument that there's one more out there that we're not thinking about that are one of the best. And he has been dying for this moment. He's been part of these sorry-ass Diamondbacks teams. And he's finally got a shot to come through, and I think he finally does it. So then the last question I have for you is the most important question for all of us. Who gets us a free taco? Wes.
Oh man, I was so prepared for this that the Phillies won because Kyle Schwarber was going to steal
The first base.
base.
He'd have to get a single or a walk, though.
Come on, Wes. You gotta go with this. Come on. I know
I
who
think
it
it's
is.
going to be Ketel Marte.
Ketel Marte. Michael Burns.
Evan Carter, dude. It's your table setter. It's your MVP. It's Evan Carter.
He's not even his MVP. Josh Young is.
Yeah, but
No. He changed it to.
No, he didn't. He kept it as Young. Unless, did you change it on me?
I think Evan Carter. I'm going Evan Carter for MVP.
Okay, so I'm changing it. Evan Carter. All right, I wrote
So I
down.
don't think he's going to.
I've got to make the graphic, gentlemen, so I'm writing it down. I am going with
And-
Leody Taveras. I just think that he's going to get on. I don't think that they're going to try to run a ton on Moreno, but he's going to be the one guy on that team, I think, that has a shot, because I think if Carter gets on, he's probably got somebody on in front of him. That would be my only guess, is there's a good chance with Seager and Simeon getting on ahead of him. Tavares at the end of the lineup batting 8 or 9 may not have as many people to clog up the bases.
Rangers are going to be the home team,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
which means Diamondbacks are hitting first in games 1 and 2,
Mm-hmm.
which means Evan Carter won't hit until the bottom of the first inning.
He's been hitting 3, hasn't he?
Yeah, but he's not going to
Yeah.
hit until the Diamondbacks hit first, right?
Right.
So my assumption is there's going to be a stolen base in the first inning, and Ketel Marte is going to do it.
Oh, okay. So he's doing it right off the bat.
I hope so.
I get it. I get it. All right. Well, that has been our predictions of the World Series. Wes going with the Rangers and Michael Burns going with the Diamondbacks, and I burned myself by going with whoever Michael went with. So congratulations to the Texas Rangers on the 2023 World Series. Just kidding.
Their first ever.
It would be their first ever. As we open the show with it, the bird. Do you think that's just destiny, Michael?
Absolutely, baby. How could you go against that omen right there?
Two quick things before we get going. Dusty Baker. There we go again. If you're watching on YouTube, you can just saw my magic fingers
least-
do some
At
balloons
least I
again.
figured it out. It's the Mac. It's
It's-
gotta be.
Wes can't do it,
But
though.
there's a time frame to it, though. Like, it doesn't happen every time he lifts his hands.
No, it's special. I just whenever I. So
two
Dusty,
things.
two
Dusty
things.
Baker.
Dusty Baker retiring. Thoughts?
Yeah.
Has he announced it, or we're guessing if he is or not?
Yeah, the press conference was today,
I
I
believe
think.
so. Yeah.
It was kind of sad. I'd shed maybe a tear. Dusty Baker, 22 World Series champion, 7th most wins all time. Those are 2 and 3 in his career accomplishments. For me, do you know what number 1 is? It's not what you're thinking.
I'm trying to think. So it was the Reds, the Cubs, the Giants, the Nationals, and the Astros that he's coached for. He's taking 5 teams to the postseason.
His number 1 accomplishment is that he invented the high five.
That's right. With the Braves.
Go look it up.
With the Braves. Yes.
I love that.
You didn't know that,
Go
Mike?
look it up.
Yeah.
He
is.
invented the high five.
And now he won't high five you because he's wearing surgical gloves. But he's a Hall of Famer, right?
Yes.
One of the best ever. Do you think
Yeah.
he's one of the best ever? I think so too.
Yeah.
As a Cubs fan who he effed the team up, I still will say Dusty Baker is one of the best that we've ever seen in our generation as a manager. 26 seasons, I believe. He took every team he ever managed to the postseason at one point in time in his career, won his World Series. And then how funny is it that Bob Melvin is now the Giants head coach?
He was announced he was the head coach while he was still a head coach.
Of a divisional rival.
Yeah.
So Bob Melvin, no longer the Padres manager, but he's now the manager of the San Francisco Giants. So that has been it for our World Series preview of Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast. You can always find us on YouTube. That is at Barrels and Barrels Pod. We're almost at 900 subscribers, 897 currently, or as we started this recording. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Barrels and Barrels Pod. You can also find our bourbon-related subscribing page on YouTube. That is at BNB Bourbon. We are almost to 180 subscribers there, and that one is quickly growing. On Twitter, you can find us, or that's now X, at Barrels and Barrels. Find us on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Google, and Amazon podcasts. Don't forget to rate us and review us. And if you want any of our merchandise, we've got our t-shirts available at charliemikeneverweekend.com. And also you can get our glassware or any hats at our link tree in our bio. Again, don't forget, use promo code WhiskeyWeather, whiskeytowers.com for 10% off your order. I'm excited for World Series. I hope it goes 7, just for the fact that this is the end of it all. Gentlemen, this is the culmination. I want as much baseball as I can get because it's done for a 3-month period from there.
Yeah, right. It's sad times. Just basketball. Once football ends, it's just basketball.
So, as you heard it here first, the Texas Rangers are your World Series champions in 2023 because Michael Burns has picked the Arizona Diamondbacks, both started at the same time, to win the World Series. For Michael, for Wes, I am Brandon Spinner. Thank you for watching Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast. Stay tuned for more videos and episodes as we go throughout the rest of the series. Michael Burns, send us away.
Let's go.